Together we rise, one step at a time. Unshakable, unshakable. Oh, we'll carry the torch till we find a cure. Unshakable, unshakable.
Hello, guys. Welcome to the Unshakable podcast. Listen, I am absolutely honored. I've got such a huge guest today. He, to me, is the definition of unshakable. We could spend hours on all his accolades. Three-time fitness record holder, American Ninja Warrior, Guinness Book of World Records, motivational speaker. But what has always got me with this man is, and I sent him a message on the side. I told him this. Aside from his feats on American Ninja Warrior, the fact that he was on it and willing to put himself out there and show himself to this community, to the world, to me, showed more strength than anything he's ever done. So I'm truly honored. I'm humbled to have Mr. Jimmy Choi on the show. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me. And let's not oversell. I think people know that I'm a goofball on social media, and you know what? That's a nice title for me to have, and I think let's keep it that way.
Well, and it's funny you say that because that's actually what I want to do today with you. I think a lot of people look at you as the superhero. I want to peel the layers back. I'm going to be honest with you. I want to take the cape off. I want people to know the Clark Kent before you became Superman and how you got there. Because here's what I think. I think people read you wrong sometimes. I think people look at it like you were this unbelievable athlete and you're still doing it despite Parkinson's. And I think the story is much different than that. I mean, you started where we all are, at the bottom with Parkinson's, and you worked your way to the top. And I think if they know that story, you become a lot more real and relatable and inspiring to the common Parkinson's warrior. So I want to go there. If you could just briefly explain to people, because I know when I was diagnosed, I hate to say this, but I was basically given two things: the word Parkinson's and a pamphlet, and I was on my way. That was it, and that scared the hell out of me. Tell me a little bit about some of your early symptoms, and if you don't mind sharing that moment you were diagnosed, how you felt.
Sure. I was diagnosed at a very young age, age 27. And to tell you the truth, everything that I was feeling back then could be explained away through a life of a 27-year-old, right? I was getting twitches here and there, and I always marked it off as stress from working. I mean, this is back then. This is back in the days of the early .com. There's a lot of stress to produce and to go IPO and do all that stuff, right? And I was in tech, so stress can explain away all the twitchiness and all that stuff. But like other things like stiffness, stiffness and rigidity is probably my worst symptoms even to today.
Yeah.
So like back then, you wake up sore and they're like, oh, well, I played a round of golf yesterday. No big deal, right?
Just life.
It's just life. Everything could be explained away by life, right? But I never put, like hindsight is always 2020. Now that we know that, early symptoms include like sleep issues, like which I had back then. It included gut issues, like bowel movements and slowness. All that stuff was happening. I just never put it together as a 20-something-year-old. Who would think about Parkinson's? And actually, it was a life insurance physical, where the nurse that did the physical for me told me, say, hey, Jimmy, I'm seeing things about you that's very familiar. My day job is in a neurology office, and she never said Parkinson's. She's never said any diagnosis, because she can't, right? She can't give that diagnosis, especially at a insurance physical. But she told me, like, hey, Jimmy, I'm seeing things in you that it's very, very familiar to me. So I suggest you talk to your doctor about, she had me get up and move. She had me walk. She explained, some of the lack of arm swing. She explained that my pupils were dilating at different rates on each side. And so she was like, go talk to your doctor about this. And then I did. And 8 months later, after orthopedic visits, neurology visits, and finally a movement disorder specialist took one look at me after 3 minutes and says, Jimmy, you've got Parkinson's, right?
A couple of quick tap tests and you have Parkinson's.
Yeah. And it wasn't that the tap test was like, okay, was one thing, but it was as soon as I got up and walked,
Yeah.
she's like, walk down the hall and back. And I came back. She's like, yeah, Jimmy, you got Parkinson's. And that was it. And I just remembered that moment. It was shock. I think I swore at her. I was like, what the F are you talking about? But just like you said, just like many others with Parkinson's, I was given a pamphlet, and I was told you have Parkinson's. And I was also told, hey, if you don't believe me, take this medication. If it helps you, then I'm
You
right.
have Parkinson's.
Yeah,
That's
if it doesn't, we'll come back and explore other things.
It's truly amazing, isn't it? Like the way they diagnose it.
Yeah, and remember, this is 2000. This is back in 2003, so it was a long
Right.
time ago. But that's exactly how it happened, and how it went down. And
And let me ask you, like, and this is a tough subject for me. I get a little emotional when I say it, so I'm going to try not to. My first reactions were, aside from shock and disbelief. I have three boys, and I look at it like, okay, what does this mean? I mean, am I not going to be around to help them physically, learn their sports, or help them when they need fixing up with their first house? And that struck me. It wasn't even about me. It was about the people that needed me. What was kind of some? I think I heard you say you didn't tell your family initially. What were some of your initial fears as far as what you thought once you got diagnosed?
so let me tell you this: I didn't have kids when I was diagnosed. I had just gotten married, right? I was a newlywed, and my fear was whether or not my wife would have to one day, be my primary caregiver, and that was my fear. And the next 8 years kind of fell into that notion, because all I did was I put all of my energy, all of my focus into my career to make as much money as I can, so that in the future my wife wouldn't have to worry about taking care of me. So I think you're it's very similar, right? I didn't have kids yet back then, and all I thought about was, what my wife was going to have to deal with in the future. And I was told by my neurologist, in follow-up visits, that, hey, Jimmy, you're going to be in a wheelchair, probably in like 10, 15 years. So do what you got to do now to get things ready.
Well, clearly the joke is on them. But, and one of the things, and I saw you said you did a lot of trials and you dove into trials, medical trials. And one of the things that struck me, because I'll be very honest with you on this podcast, I was there, not with the trials, but where your mental state was. I heard that you said that you almost selfishly didn't care how the trials went because you were so depressed.
Mhm.
I was there. I was in that dark place where I didn't care if I woke up the next day, because I didn't know how good I was going to be to anybody, or even myself.
Yeah.
How do you dig yourself out of that to say, what led you to say, all right, enough, I gotta fight?
It's a very selfish way. If I think about it, like going back, the way that I dealt with it was all very selfish. It was all about, I need to earn more money. Yeah, it was, at the end of the day, the ultimate goal was to make sure my family wouldn't have to take
Yeah.
care of me.
That's not
But
selfish.
that's not selfish. But then, everything about it up to that point is, because
I understand.
as you mentioned, like, depression, that's a big part of it.
Huge.
And I was getting angry at just everything. When we finally had kids, man, I was screaming at the kids for no reason. A little kid spilling milk is par for the course, right? It's
Yeah.
every day. But
Sure.
I just remember just screaming at my daughter, for like, and like trying to stop, like thinking to myself, why am I screaming? I couldn't. But I was just so angry at the world. And what changed was, and I've told this story before, I fell down the stairs, carrying my 10-month-old son. It was that moment that I realized that I was becoming a safety issue for my kids, and I was becoming a burden to my wife. So the whole selfish thought is still there, because now I want to make better decisions for my family. But one of the better decisions that I thought I was making was getting involved with clinical trials. And just like you said, I was reckless, right? I signed up for it without reading the fine print. And when they said, Jimmy, yeah, I think we think you're a candidate, come on in, I went. I didn't care what it was.
Yeah.
I showed up and I'm like, what do you want to do to me? Because
Wow.
if this is the selfish part of it, is that if there was a cure, I'd be the first to get it.
Right.
Me first, right? But if there wasn't and something happened and I died, that would not have been the worst thing for
That's
me.
the way I viewed it personally myself. And
Yeah.
and
And I think
it's hard
that's
to
one
hear
of
you
the
say that,
reasons
but
why, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's one of the reasons why I signed up for one after another, after another, after another, you know. But the end result of that was that these clinical trials taught me a lot about Parkinson's.
well, and I can imagine because you obviously had that. I'm sure it started with the fall down the stairs. You changed your mindset. But you said something very interesting to me. You said you've always worked. Let me get this right. You've always worked within your limitations and not beyond them. And I find that troubling myself because who knows what that is? I mean, I'll be very honest with you. Yesterday, I thought I was having a good day, and I went to the gym and setback. Like, how do you know what your limitations are when you first start going?
You push, you push until you break, right? That's how you know. You learn from your mistakes, you learn
Yeah.
from experience, right? So I just kept pushing. I kept pushing every day. I mean, I mentioned this before in other areas, and I always talk about, I ask myself the question of what can I do today that's more than yesterday? I'm not kidding about that, you know? I honestly, like today, like, for example, when I was still learning how to walk again, still walking with a cane, I remember getting down to my neighbor's mailbox, which is, I don't know, 40 meters away, right? And I get there and then I'm like, holy crap, this is so hard, right?
Yeah.
And I turned around and went home. But then tomorrow I'm like, hey, can I get
Right.
past that? Can I get to the tree after the mailbox? So I just kept pushing the limits. And that's how you know where your limits are, is if you don't keep pushing it, right? How do you know where you are? And then and here's the thing that really, one of the things that really is a pet peeve of mine is watching people say that, oh, I exercise, I do this, right? But what they're doing is like 10% of their potential.
Yes.
And I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah.
But they're just happy because I went to the gym and I put in my
Mark.
reps today,
Yeah. Like a check
right?
mark. I went to the gym, but you
Yeah,
you know better than anybody. You got to push yourself.
exactly. And I think that's what I mean by working within your limits. You
Right.
also have to know where your limits, and you gotta continuously push yourself. One of the things that I definitely do not recommend people do without checking with their care team, is that every once in a while, and I'm just sharing this as an experience, right?
Yeah.
So don't do this at home,
Yeah. You're
people.
not. He's not a doctor. He just plays one on TV.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm email the script every day. But no, every once in a while, I will go into the gym in a controlled environment, and I will work out completely without medication and completely off.
In an off period.
And completely off. And the reason I do that is because I need to know what I am truly capable of when I am stuck in a situation where I have no access to medication, where I might be in, like, I don't know,
An airport. Or
yeah, or in
yeah.
quarantine for some
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
right?
That's a great idea.
For days. So I need to know what my limits are, and I need to know what I can do so that I know when to ask for help, and I know when I might get myself in trouble.
Now, you actually just brought up something very big and that I wanted to ask you personally. I've been trying to figure this out for 4 or 5 years now with the medications. Obviously, there's so many next steps that I don't really want to get into with DBS and all that fun stuff. But as far as the meds, I personally think that the biggest thing is in the gut. I'm certainly not a doctor, but obviously, medications and diet have to have a huge role in how they affect your body. And I don't think I'm there yet. What does Jimmy Choi, what does a diet look like for him and medications as far as timing? Not your day, but what do you eat and how much time before and after do you wait?
Yeah, how long is this podcast? Because I can honestly go on for
I'm sure.
days.
But is there like a general type of diet or things you have to stay away from
No,
or things you,
so I will say this. Every diet that's been mentioned or studied for Parkinson's, I've done it. Okay. Mind diet, Mediterranean diet, keto diet, intermittent fasting,
right?
right? I wouldn't say I wouldn't say like what is the caveman diet.
Well, I saw you with a big pizza on Instagram the other day, so
Well,
don't
yeah,
lie to me.
so whatever it is, and I tried it, and I'm going to tell you that when I try something, I give it a fair share. Okay, so for example, keto I did for 10 months.
No.
Okay, Mediterranean and mind diet and all that stuff. And I will say the Mediterranean and mind diet are the most studied diet when it comes to brain health.
Yeah.
So I still use like the principles of both of those diets today. But at the end of the day, for me is I just try to stay clean. Yeah, I know I share a lot of Instagram photos where, especially recently, right? With like pizza, like you said, the giant pizza.
That's
You
okay,
know what?
Jimmy.
You know what? That's life.
Yeah, exactly.
But I followed the 90-10 rule. 90% of the time, I try to eat as clean and as healthy as I possibly can.
Right.
And 10% is life. You know what? I'm hanging out with my kids and they want ice cream. Heck, give me ice cream, right? But I'm not going to beat myself up for eating something processed or eating something sugary. I'm just going
You're
to go
living.
right.
You're trying to live.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to go right back to that 90% where it's clean, eating clean, no processed foods, and not highly restrictive. Because this is what I learned about 22, almost 23 years living with Parkinson's, doing all of these different diets and these
Yeah.
different things. This is what I learned. If it's not sustainable, you're not going to stick to it,
Right.
right? So if you get on a diet that's highly restrictive and your lifestyle doesn't allow you to do that, you're
It's
not
not
going
gonna
to
work.
stick to it.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And if it's not going to work, what are you really doing, right? The Parkinson's diagnosis changed my life.
Yeah.
I need to make meaningful life changes. And if I can only do something for a few months at a time, and then I got to start all over again,
What's the point?
that's not a life change, right? So, but people want to do keto, people want to do carnivore, and it helps them. People want to do fasting, it helps them. By all means, do it. All I'm saying is when people ask me the question about diet, is that I stay clean, I stay balanced, and it's something that's sustainable as a lifestyle change over a long period of time.
All right, so now we got our diagnosis, we got our mind right, we got our meds right. For the common person that watches you doing these tremendous feats on TV, but wants to know okay, where'd you start? No, I get up today, I want to do some basic stuff. I want to go to the gym without killing myself. Where do I start?
So you're asking like Kane walking Jimmy where I started, right?
Where did Kane walking Jimmy, going to the mailbox and coming back? What was the next step?
So you know what? It's finding small wins, right? Knowing exactly where you are. We talked about setting limits, right? Knowing exactly where you are. Let's be honest with ourselves, right? Because Kane walking 250-pound Jimmy isn't going to be running marathons. So let's be honest. What am I capable of? And I'm certainly not going to compare myself to who I was 10 years before, right? We all age. But like understand movement. So where I started was physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. People ask me like, you speak well? Yeah, because I've been doing speech therapy for the last 10 years and I haven't
Taking the
stopped.
Loud program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
LSBT Loud. Yep. And LSBT Big is where I started with physical therapy.
Yeah.
And so, like it's knowing where to start. You are not going to pick up 300 pounds right from the get-go, right? And people look at it, oh, well, Jimmy, you can do all these push-ups and all these pull-ups and things like that. Like, I'm like, I can't even do and say things like, I can't even do a girl push-up. First of all, what the hell is a girl push-up, right? Do you mean a push-up on your knee? No such thing as a girl push-up. I don't care who you are. A push-up is a push-up. And I don't care what variation you're doing on your knees or elevated. A push-up is a push-up. But that's where you are, right? That's where I started, right? That's where I started. So you're not going to get to, and I'm not saying everybody needs to get to where I am, but you're not going to get to the next level without first taking that first step, right?
Like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. But
Yeah.
I want you to touch upon the one more theory, because you talk a lot about that. Because the way I get it is you're trying to push yourself to do more the next day of something, even if it's one more push-up. Now, the way I view that is the offset there is if there's something that I can't do, I'm still trying to stay positive with knowing I'm pushing myself in another area. I think it's more of a mental thing, at least for me. Tell me a little bit more about your one more theory.
So for me, this is how it works. The one more theory isn't always about, you know, like adding another pound to your
Okay.
to your PR, right? It isn't about doing another extra push-up. What it actually is, and it's okay to fail, right? It's because if you don't achieve it today, it's okay. You come back. There's two things that I want to achieve. Number one is to make sure I keep coming back,
Yes.
right? If I don't get it today, I'm going to come back and try to get it tomorrow, right? But at the same time, when I say more today than yesterday, notice it's not specific, right?
Anything.
It could be anything
Yeah.
that's more today than yesterday. Maybe I can eat another pound of ice cream today. That's more than yesterday,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
good-
win. That's
yeah,
a
that's a
win.
win. But no, seriously though, you know, it doesn't always have to be a specific item that you're working on. But you know, if you're looking at your overall like health in terms of
You're
movement and
improving somewhere.
yeah, you make a gain somewhere, you try to make a gain somewhere, but you know what? Like on days that we all have where apathy just kicks your ass, right? And you don't want to go to the gym, more today is getting into the gym, right? That is getting into the gym. Doing the workout when when your medicine isn't working, that is more than you would have done,
Well,
right?
listen, what was it that the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu, he said, every great mile starts with the first step.
Absolutely.
You have to get up and take the step. If, you know, you got to
Yeah.
be there to do it.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
look, here's a weird question, and I apologize if anybody's ever asked you this. Listen, for me, I can go to all the physical therapists I want, all the neurologists I want, and they can tell me what I need to do. They don't have Parkinson's. They don't know my body.
Mhm.
I think it's different when somebody tells you what to do, but they don't know how my body works.
Right.
Have you ever thought about, obviously with your background, putting out some kind of video for somebody to listen, put the disclaimer, I'm not a doctor or whatever, but I think you would be absolutely perfect knowing the way the body moves with Parkinson's about like some kind of exercise video. I mean, have you ever thought about that?
So I do have a lot of videos where you know, I have a series I put out on Instagram where I tell people, you know, if I were a trainer or a physical therapist, this is what I want you to know, right? And I talk about movement patterns and things like that. In fact, I put one out this morning. So
You're the one of the guy trying to jump on your back at the gym.
no, not that one. But you know, I do put those videos out. And I hope it helps people understand what it's like to move in a body from a person with Parkinson's and who understands movement, right? At the same time, yeah, a lot of people ask me, you know, why don't you put out like videos all the time, like essentially becoming a virtual trainer of some kind? And here's the thing, I would love to do that, but I've got family.
You have a life.
I've got, you know, I've got to take care of the things that I need to take care of, right? You know, I talk about guilt last week on a video that I made, and I would love to be able to talk to everybody that wants to talk to me. I would love to be able to train people on a one-on-one basis that when they ask, but I just don't. There's no way. There's no way I can put that
Not
much
enough hours in
time.
the day, Jimmy.
There's not enough, right? And you know, if I did that, right, and there's nothing for me to do anything anywhere else, which is my priorities are my family and everybody
They
else.
should be.
Yeah.
But here's another thing that I don't think people realize, because when we think of you and we go online and all your unbelievable feats of strength that we see, people don't realize you're still like us. I mean, you still go home. But I imagine you still have the day-to-day problems like tying a shoe or buttoning a button. I mean, am I stepping out of line there, or is that true? I mean, do you still handle those things poorly, like most of us do? I mean,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like tying shoes, buttoning buttons, brushing my teeth, combing my hair. You know, these are all things that that people can do without training, right? And yet, you know, I can do all the training. People can do all the training they want in the gym and do the same things that I do in terms of the power movements and all that stuff. People can train to do that,
right.
but we are people who live with Parkinson's. We don't, it doesn't matter how much we train, we're going to have difficulty with these tasks where other people don't have to train to do well
I
in.
agree. All right.
Right.
We're going to get you out of here soon, but I have two more questions I want to ask you because I think they're very important. The first one is me personally with Parkinson's, and not to jump back to when we first diagnosed, but I dove into the community, not the community, like information. And I didn't like it when I first got diagnosed. I was afraid of what it looked like. I went to Rock City boxing classes and I was with a bunch of elderly people, and I felt like it was a look into my future, and it depressed the hell out of me. I'm not going to lie to you. But what I did realize is I found this beautiful, beautiful Parkinson's community. And I realized that I got more from them than any doctor could ever give me because everybody's different. Everybody's you're going to see things that affect people in different ways. So I think it's important that people need to know, don't shy away from the good and the bad. You have to dive in and get into this community, talk to people, because it's about not getting to that point. It's about fighting to not get to that point. I mean, how were you initially did you kind of like deny information? Did you jump in? What was that like?
Just so let's also put something in perspective here. When I was diagnosed, it was 2003. There's no Google back then.
Well, yeah, true.
Right. I think Yahoo was still pretty new. People were asking Jeeves, if you remember that, right? So back then it was, I couldn't get online and dig in. However, I did avoid everything. The denial was the big part of my first 8 years. And let me tell you, from the point, like the initial like blockade of information, I guess, right? Yeah, I didn't want to learn about it. One of the things is that I did go to a support group, right? Remember, nothing was online back then, right? Yeah. So I did go to a support group in person, and I did see people much older than me, and in a state, and it was just depressing. Everybody was complaining. Yeah. It was just depressing, and I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. However, in 2012, I started, when I finally started sharing my story when I was trying to run a Chicago Marathon for the first time, then I came across the community that you're talking about, right? I came across people who are more like-minded. And it was only then until I realized that, exposing myself and having the exposure of everybody in this community not only broadened my vision and the experiences that I have, but at the same time, it allowed me to find people who are like-minded. It allowed me to find people who look like me, who are similar ages, similar life, stages, right? And that, I think, was more important.
You're not alone.
To finding out that you are not alone. And I still have so many people, reaching out to me these days and say, hey, I've never met a person I'm like you, my age, being diagnosed at such a young age, and I can't find them. And then immediately I start sending them in Instagram pages to other people who are just like me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, to me, the last big question I'm going to close on, because I think it's probably the most important, is where do we go from here? I have my Fox MVP rig bracelets. I wear them proudly every day. I wear this like a jersey, like a badge of honor. I firmly believe that Michael J. Fox and his story and his foundation have kept me alive to some degree. I truly mean that. People like you, I know you don't want me to oversell it, and I'm not, but you give me hope that you started where I was. I'm not going to be Jimmy Choi. Nobody else is, but I could be the best version of myself. There's somewhere to start and somewhere to go. But I firmly believe that the Fox Foundation has opened doors for me. And I've never went to a Fox Foundation event where I didn't leave filled with hope and wanting to do more. They've sent me to Washington. I mean, to advocate. They're such an amazing organization. What have they meant to Jimmy Choi?
Huh. Well, I think just like you said, it's an eye-opening experience. For me, it was that I'm going to go back to that Chicago Marathon. That was my first exposure to the Fox Foundation because I ran on a charity bib from the Fox Foundation, right? But up to that point, I hadn't done any community outreach. I haven't done anything. I just started exercising. And then when I was ready to run a marathon, I signed up and they're like, okay, you got to raise $2,000 for research. And I did. I ended up raising like $5,000, but,
wow.
But I created that connection that I didn't have. I started sharing my story to those people around me, my inner circle, so that they better understand exactly what I was dealing with, and I remove like the elephant in the room every time
Yes.
we're together. I was connected to this community, and people are telling me, you know, how much encouragement they're getting from hearing my story of going from a cane to running a marathon. And I realized that when I accepted the bib to the time that I ran, it was only 4 weeks. It was a
You
month.
raise that amount, that quick amount of money in
Yep.
that short time. Wow.
So I realized that in that 4 weeks of time, I did more for me, the community, and the Parkinson's you know, story around me than I did in my first 8 years combined. Right?
But that's empowering. It makes you want to do more.
Absolutely. And I want people to know this about the Fox Foundation, because I get this all the time. People ask me, hey, you know, what exactly are they doing? We don't have a cure yet. I was like, well, yeah, we don't have a cure yet. But really what the foundation is doing is there are people who are out there looking to the Fox Foundation for help, like on everyday things like how do I get to a clinic or whatever, right? The Fox Foundation's sole purpose is on research, right?
They have resources. They have a ton of resources you can go
Yeah.
online and find.
Exactly. But you know, if you're looking for help, there are other foundations like
Yes.
great foundations like Davis Finney or Parkinson's Foundation or Brian Grant, where they can help you with those issues. But the Fox
Some of the
Foundation,
day-to-day stuff.
yeah, Fox Foundation is truly focused on research.
Correct.
And if you look at, and I want people to understand this, if you look at where Fox Foundation started 25 years ago to today,
Oh,
right? They were willing to fund all the little things that no one else was willing to, that got us to where we are today.
Yeah.
Progress isn't going to happen overnight. I think we all know that by now. But I want to tell you the story because not a lot of people actually know this story, is that, you know, today we know that alpha-synuclein can be imaged. Alpha-synuclein can be seen. We can measure it now, right? And we all know alpha-synuclein is one of the big breakthroughs that's happened in the last 5 years in the world of Parkinson's. Yeah. But none of that happened until we can finally image it. So back in the days, in the mid 2010s and 12s and 13s, we were still trying to figure out how to image alpha-synuclein. Okay, someone said, hey. Someone hypothesized that, hey, you know what? I think we might be able to see it better in zero gravity. Okay. And everyone was like, this is crazy. But what did the Fox Foundation do? Fox Foundation paid to have samples sent up to the International Space Station to have experiments done to see whether or not they can image it. Right. No one was going to fund that. Now, it didn't prove that it helped, even so, but we didn't know. We didn't know until it was done. Right. Yeah. So I just want to let people know that you know, people who are desperately waiting for something to happen. Right. This is why it's taking so long. Yeah. But the foundation is willing to go outside of the box. And it's because of that effort that I know that they're willing to do that. That keeps me engaged. That this is the type of organization that I want to get involved in, because they're willing to take these risks. They're willing to make the steps that we need.
People, scientists and researchers will answer the phone when they get the call from Fox Foundation.
Absolutely. And you know, and that's what the foundation means to me, is that I know, and especially knowing the man himself, I know that there's nothing that's going to stop the organization from moving forward.
Now, tell the audience quickly, how much have you and your family to this point from that raised for Parkinson's research? Because I know the answer.
Yeah, since 2012 to today is well over $1 million.
God bless you.
Yeah, it's you know, it's just putting the money where my mouth is, right? I mean, that $1 million didn't come from me. It came from my efforts, friends, family, supporters all over, and you know, but that's the thing. I always say that I'm not rich enough to find a cure. I'm not smart enough to come up with a cure. So the best thing that I can do is help out, right? Whether it's getting participation in clinical trials or raising money, whatever I can do, that's my way of pitching in.
I've always said to everybody who's asked me, not everybody's going to do a podcast, going to be on American Ninja Warrior, but there's always a way to advocate within your comfort level, whether it be
Absolutely.
sending emails to your politicians or there's advocating is usually telling your story and using your mouth. There's always
Yep.
a way to advocate. Um, and I'm just going to wrap this up. I've taken enough of your time. I so greatly appreciate it. Two quick questions. I want one word answers.
Okay.
Parkinson's has taken blank from Jimmy Choi, and Parkinson's has given blank to Jimmy Choi.
Uh-huh. It's a tough one. Tough one. Um, Parkinson's. I'm gonna flip it around.
Go for it.
Okay. Parkinson's has given me grit.
Love it.
Okay. And I think Parkinson's has taken away. Man, this one is tough, right? I mean, the
Thank you
easy.
very much from you because you have a mindset that it's not taking it; it's just different. That's why I wanted to ask you that.
This one is tough because because I don't want to mislead people, right? It has taken a great deal, but at the end of the day, the journey that I've had
It led you to where you are.
has returned so much. You know, yeah.
Jimmy, I've said
I don't know, man.
I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy,
Absolutely.
but I know that Parkinson's has given me so much that I wouldn't trade this version of me for any version in the past. I'm a better person. It's taught me how short life is and how helping people is good. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would rather not have the shakes, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade what it's turned me into for the world.
I'll put it this way, would I be an American Ninja Warrior? Would I have world records if I had never had Parkinson's? No,
Probably not.
no, I wouldn't.
Well, God bless you for doing it. So listen, in the movie, what's the name when they tell the Jimmy Choi story? What's the name? What's the movie name going to be, and who's playing you? Because I'm going to get Ryan Reynolds to play me in your movie, so you can't pick him.
Man, you asked some tough ones, man. So if there's ever a movie that would be made, God, I don't know. I don't know who would play me. There's nobody handsome enough to play me, I don't think.
Then I'm not gonna argue with that.
No, I'm kidding. No,
We'll go Brad Pitt or Mark Wahlberg.
no,
somebody
no.
like that.
You know what? I'm gonna go the other way. The movie would be something very similar to Rudy, I think. If
I personally think you should play yourself, and I think
Yeah.
it should be called Unshakable because then we have a title song for you.
yeah, the song that you're working on, that's great, man. I see
Listen,
the progress you're making.
sometimes music can heal, man, and whatever
Yeah.
we can do to get the word out.
But I was a pudgy little kid, and that kind of bloomed, and awkward little kid that grew up. But so the movie will be something like Rudy. I don't know what it's going to be called. I actually don't ever think about it. But I think I would find an unknown pudgy little kid out there to play Jimmy
Find
Choi.
the former me. I'll do it. So listen, man, I am going to let you go. I cannot tell you what an honor it was to have you on. I really think this was such a great podcast. I think people are going to get information that they're going to see you in a little bit of a different light. That listen, you weren't just born American Ninja Warrior, and you're holding on to you built yourself through Parkinson's to that point, and I find it truly amazing. I'm inspired by your story, where you started from, and where you are now. God bless you and your family for all you do for Parkinson's research. Obviously, everybody knows Jimmy. If you don't, JC Fox Ninja and everywhere online. And listen, until next time, remember Parkinson's may shake you, but it doesn't define you. So stay unshakable. Thank you all. Thank you, Jimmy, so much.
Hey, thanks, Tim.
Jimmy took a single step, and it turned into a walk, and it turned into a run and jog, and then next thing you knew, he was racing. The foundation gives people a chance to engage, and engagement is empowerment.